Well, let's bring in former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, a friend of our show. Good morning to you, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning.
Good morning. Did you watch any of the Sunday shows? Did you see how it was the blame game for sure? Everyone's blaming another group for what happened with Obamacare.
Well, it's one of Washington's favorite hobbies. It lets them avoid thinking. They can all just sit around and gossip. But I think from President Trump's standpoint, there's some big lessons to be learned out of last week, and I think he has every reason to believe he can move forward and be remarkably successful. I think, this is a temporary thing. Remember, it took Reagan 8 months to pass a tax cut, which was giving away money. It took us 18 months to pass welfare reform, which was extraordinarily popular. And it took even Obama and Nancy Pelosi 8 months to pass Obamacare. So the fact that they set an artificial deadline for defeat, I think, was just a mistake. I think they now got to get back up off the mat, think through what they've learned, and keep moving forward.
So, Mr. Speaker, pointing fingers can be useful if it's part of a post-mortem that you learn from. Almost nobody on the planet has done more building of coalitions than you and others you work with, including, no, seriously, across the aisle. What does it look like going forward? How does he build winning coalitions to pass the big-ticket items that he ran on in the campaign?
Look, there's a great book called The Education of Ronald Reagan about Reagan at General Electric. I used it. I studied under Reagan. I worked with Reagan. Everything we did when I was Speaker was based on principles I learned from Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. First, you go to the country. You don't go to the city. You make sure that the country's for you. When you have a bill at 17%, the answer is don't vote on the bill. It means you've lost the argument. So they've got to develop an argument on health, which they can take to the country. If they get a good argument on health, for example, rural counties, I think they can get North Dakota's Senator Heidekamp, because she represents an entirely rural state that was overwhelmingly for Trump. So you start with a 60-vote strategy in the Senate based on the grassroots, not based on Washington maneuvering. You have a principled bill, and you basically reach out to Democrats. When we passed welfare reform, we split the Democrats even, 101 yes, 101 no. When Reagan passed the tax cuts, he got 1 out of every 3 Democrats in the House. But the key is not negotiating in Washington. The key is having a bill that is so clear, that is so vivid, that Trump can go to the country, hold those 20 and 30,000 person rallies. 2 rallies in North Dakota would make it very hard for the senator to vote no. Several rallies in Missouri would make it very hard for the senator who's up for re-election to vote no. The same thing in Indiana, where, frankly, Vice President Pence could go and hold 3 to 5 rallies and make it very hard for the Democrat to vote no. So I think you have to have a totally different model than the one they used. The model they used was an insider model. It allowed CBO's fake score to matter. It allowed the Senate's absurd rules for reconciliation to matter. And then it said to everybody, trust us. Remember, this is the age of Donald Trump, who was elected because people don't trust Washington politicians. So saying, oh, we'll fix it in the second and third part, denied everything we know about the American people now.
But right now, Newt Gingrich, if you're the strategist and the president calls you tomorrow, turn the page on Obamacare and now focus on tax reduction, tax reform?
No. I think they're going to, and I think that's wrong. Focus on infrastructure first, because you can reach out to every single Democrat on infrastructure. You can write a bipartisan bill that gets an enormous margin. Trump ought to want a Trump majority in the House of 300 plus and a Trump majority in the Senate of 65 or so. Not a Republican majority, a Trump majority. You're going to get far further down the road by doing infrastructure next. And then in the middle, you can also do tax reform in parallel. But they should be very, very excited about infrastructure reform.
Wow.
It's going to bring an amazing number of Democrats. It's going to create jobs. Remember, the #1 test for Donald Trump's reelection is going to be how many jobs did you create. The earlier you start on infrastructure, the earlier you're going to be creating jobs on infrastructure. And then I would do taxes in parallel. And at the same time, I would say to the House and Senate, we're going to work with Dr. Price taking the lead at Health and Human Services. We're going to go to the country. We're going to fashion a brand new bill. It's going to be the right kind of long-term health bill. And we're going to make sure that it has 60 or 65% support. Then we'll bring that bill to the House and Senate.